Larry Elder has announced for the presidency. I'm going to tell you why I am absolutely thrilled about that and excited about that. For those of you that know me, you might know that, listen, I'm straight up with you. I am a Trump guy in this sense. I love Trump. I love Trump for it. I believe that we need some justice, justice for what happened in 2020. I love his energy policies. I love his foreign policy. We weren't getting into World War III. But having said that, I'm not mad at Governor Ron DeSantis for running. I think Governor Ron DeSantis is a juggernaut, and I think he's been treated unfairly, even by some in the conservative movement. So I'm going to talk about that and what he's done for Disney, which is absolutely amazing because I think a lot of conservatives are getting it twisted. And here's the way that I view things. Again, I love Trump. I love DeSantis. I love Vivek Ramaswamy. I love Larry Elder. I think those four guys, those are the four guys that I'm watching because I can imagine them on the stage if, in fact, Ron DeSantis does announce. And I'm like, these are some power hitters. These are some guys that are fighters, in my opinion. These are some guys that are going to bring some real good solutions. And whoever wins it. Now, I got to be honest with you. I do believe it is my opinion that the more people get in, the more likely it is that Trump will take home the nomination. But I look at these guys, all of these guys that are on the right, all of these guys that are fighters, all of these guys with strong positions. And I'm like, that's not going to do anything except make the party stronger. It's going to clarify our position against a Democrat Party that absolutely hates you, absolutely hates the American idea. And I am so excited about that. I think Larry Elder can bring a lot to the table. And you never know. Listen, we're a ways out. I know there's a lot of polling out there. You never know what can happen in a year or more period of time. And quite frankly, I think now is the time. I know a lot of people are saying, hey, you know what? This is Trump's time. Nobody else should run. I disagree with that for the reasons that I stated, but I do believe that if God has called you to run, if you feel compelled to run, and you're a fighter and you feel like you can save this nation, I think you have a moral obligation to run, even though I do believe, listen, Trump is ahead in the polls. We just got to be honest about it. And again, the way that it works, I'm just looking at the math. So I'm upfront about that. I'm honest about that. But I want you to hear the candidates. I think Larry Elder, were he to win, I think he would be a phenomenal president, frankly. I think he would be a phenomenal second man. We do know this. He's a fighter, and he has excellent ideas. Let me talk about this real quick. Actually, let's do this. Zach, do we have time? This is a rather lengthy audio clip, but this is Larry Elder's announcement. Do we have enough time before the first break? Okay. All right. So, Zach, if we could, let's go ahead. This runs just shy of 5 minutes. I know this takes a minute, but it's Larry Elder on Tucker Carlson. It's worth hearing. So we'll talk about this, and then we'll get into some of the culture war issues, and we'll get into the fact that that Hunter Biden, or actually the CIA and Blinken, rigged the 2020 election. We'll talk about that shortly. Let's play audio clip number 1, por favor, Zach.
Larry Elder has been in California media forever, telling the truth in a really smart and sometimes hilarious way. He just ran for governor of California in a recall election against Gavin Newsom. He came up short after the state's media united to call him a white supremacist. Still makes us laugh. It's pretty offensive, actually. But he's not deterred. He has a major announcement for us tonight. Our friend Larry Elder joins us now. Larry, thanks so much for coming on. I'm sorry to laugh at that. I'm sure it's hard for you to laugh at, but it's so insane. So what are you up to next?
Well, Tucker, you almost have to laugh at it. It's so ridiculous. And actually, the actual quote was, Larry Elder is the black face of white supremacy, Tucker. And the subheadline was, you've been warned. By the way, one other LA Times columnist referred to my views as white supremacist. Why? Because I'm pro-life, because I don't buy the notion that America is systemically racist, because I want secure borders, because I want us to be energy independent instead of energy dependent, because I know that our urban schools are a disaster. So for all those reasons, I was called the black face of white supremacy and a white supremacist in terms of my views. My announcement, Tucker, is that I'm announcing that I'm running for the presidency of the United States on your program. And thank you so much for giving me this honor and this platform. Of course. My website is elderforpresident.com, elderforpresident.com. And Tucker, the reason I'm doing this is because, you know, my father was a World War II vet. He served on the island of Guam. He was a Marine. First black Marines. They were called Montford Point Marines. My late older brother, Kirk, was in the Navy during the Vietnam era. and my little brother Dennis actually served in Vietnam in the Army. I'm the only one who didn't serve, and I don't feel good about that. I feel I have a moral, a religious, and a patriotic duty to give back to a country that's been so good to my family and to me, and that is why I'm doing this, Tucker.
Well, that's amazing. Congratulations. It's a big decision to make.
Thank you.
I'm very familiar with your views. I think I agree with all of them pretty much. But if you were to narrow it down, just pick one or two, the issues that are animating you, that are making you feel like you've got to put everything on hold and do this. What are they?
Well, aside from the obvious things about the borders I mentioned before, the crime, the maligning of the police, there are a couple of things that I think our side does not spend enough time talking about. And that is the lie, the absolute disgraceful lie that the Democrats put on everything, which is that America is systemically racist. It isn't just a lie, Tucker. It's having real consequences. The police are pulling back. It's called the Ferguson effect or the George Floyd effect. And the people who are harmed by that are the very black and brown people that people on the left claim they care about. There's been a study that shows hundreds, if not thousands, of people are now dead because the police are not engaging in proactive policing because they've been demoralized by people calling them racist. The second thing, Tucker, is the 10,000-pound elephant in the room regarding all of this stuff we see in Chicago and some of these other cities with these mass mobs is the lack of fathers in the home. Right now, today in America, 40% of all kids enter the world without a father in the home, married to the mother, 70% in the black community, 50% of Hispanics, 25% of whites. Now, that's the same percentage as was the case of blacks back in 1965. The question we should be asking ourselves is, how do we go from having 25% of black kids entering the world in 1965 without a father in the home, married to the mother, to 70% today? And the answer is the welfare state. We've incentivized women to marry the government. We've incentivized men to abandon their financial and moral responsibility. And if I do nothing else in this race but focus people on those two issues, I would have performed a service to my country.
I know that my father had the pivotal effect on my life. Was that true for you? Did your dad have an effect on the man you became?
Absolutely. And my father never knew his biological father, so it's not a death sentence. But my father believed in hard work. He ended up working, when he got out of the military, 2 full-time jobs cleaning toilets, Tucker. Started a little cafe when he was around 47 years old, ran it until his 80s. And when my dad died, he owned the property where the restaurant was, a little piece of property next door to it, plus a house from South Central that we still have in our own family. So the man had died with a net worth of a little bit under $1 million. Not too bad for a kid from Athens, Georgia, Jim Crow South, whose mom threw him out of the house at the age of 13. That's what in America. My dad, by the way, was a lifelong Republican. He said this about Democrats. Democrats want to give you something for nothing. When you try and get something for nothing, you almost always end up getting nothing for something. And my mom was a lifelong, if I said Democrat, I meant Republican. My mom was a lifelong Democrat. And Tucker, they would have arguments over the kitchen table, but nobody called anybody a fascist. Nobody said you only care about the rich. Nobody said you only care about the poor. They were able to debate these things civilly, and we ought to be able to do that in this country.
All right. That was Larry Elder explaining why he's running. Guys, can you imagine anyone better getting in the presidential race that can debunk this notion of America being systemically racist and the importance of fathers in the homes, especially in minority communities? No one can do it better than Elder.